Hey, this is Jet from JechtSpencer.com, and today I'm going to be doing a book review for you. Today's book is Might is Right by Ragnar Redbeard. And if you haven't figured it out already, he obviously goes under a pen name for a variety of reasons. So just as a pretext, this book is extremely dark, extremely depravitous, maybe even evil, Darwinian, just everything about it just screams total annihilation and hatred. And if you're white, if you're black, if you're Middle Eastern, if you're Asian, if you're Native American, if you're Hispanic, if you're a Christian, you're a Jew, you're a Muslim, you're a Buddhist, pretty much anything, this book will piss you the fuck off. It will attack pretty much every core tenet of what you believe in, and it will just cut and slash it down like ribbons, as if it means absolutely nothing. There are actually a variety of countries that have banned this book completely outright. Like, you can't even get it in the bookshelves, can't get it in the library, can't get it online. It kind of got me going into thinking, why is everyone so adamant about avoiding this book? Which is why I actually picked it up in the first place. But beyond all of that hatred, beyond all the darkness, beyond all the war and death and destruction, there's actually a message in here that should be resonated with on a full scale. And this is why I actually give this book 5 stars. It was an absolutely amazing read, completely eye-opening, and it really just goes to show you that we have been fed this big lie in that might is the reason why countries are created. Force is the reason why some armies win and some armies don't. And even though we've evolved and we have like cars and we have the information superhighway and we have satellites and technology and computers and this, that, and the other, the reality is that the human mind itself hasn't evolved as quickly as the technology has. So even though on a logical level, on a conscious level, we may understand that we're living in a time of civilization, a time of knowledge, a time of enlightenment, the reality is that our subconscious mind is still built for the savannah. Our minds are still built like, hey, we are in Africa, we're running from some dangerous predatory animal, and the only way that you're able to get ahead is by the law of the jungle, and that the mighty survive and the weak fall. The victor gets the land, and the victor gets the gold every single time. There's never been a war fought, a battle won, a type of movement that has been pushed forward where ultimately the victor gets it all. I'm going to read a quote from this book because it will truly mindfuck you. So here it goes. Blessed are the strong, for they shall possess the earth. Cursed are the weak, for they shall inherit the yoke. Blessed are the powerful, for they shall be revered among men. Cursed are the feeble, for they shall be blotted out. This really is the truth. I mean, this is ultimately the truth, because we can cover up with a bunch of materialism how everyone can accomplish their dreams. We can cover up how, everyone's going to be okay and the world's just great and dandy and everything's just loving and awesome. But the reality is that there are some people that dominate and get ahead and accumulate a massive amount of wealth and the spoils of war. And then there are people that either die, or if they don't die, they're subjugated and enslaved by the people that are at the top. There aren't like huge barbarian invasions coming in and like raping and pillaging and this, that, and the other. The reality is that in a way, we've all become slaves because the people at the top have realized that by means of civilization, they're able to use people as cattle to increase their power worldwide. He talks about how the word inequality is thrown around like, pretty much like candy nowadays. Everyone's looking for equality, 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 equality. But the reality is that there will never be equality. The world is not fair. It's not a fair place. It will never be a fair place. People want to get what they want, regardless of what all these types of social conditioning is being thrown at us. The core tenet of the human experience is to live, survive, propagate, and possess. We're beginning to think that weakness equals strength. It's not true. Strength equals strength, forever and always. The natural state of men is to be a warrior. The natural state of men is to be at war. The natural state of men is to be conquering, to be living, to be thriving, not to be held down, not to be told that being weak is good, not being told that submission is life, but ultimately rising above all of that level of social nostalgia and seeing for yourself that the reality of the world is, if you want something in this world, if you have a goal in mind, if you have a career that you want, if you want a certain house you want to buy, if you want to open a business, whatever it is, you want to travel a different place, you have to take it. You can't just think about it. You can't just talk about it. You can't just plan it out. You can't just, hope it happens. You have to take it, because no one's going to give it to you. Ultimately, life is all about finding what you want and taking it. You don't ask permission. You don't wait. You don't make sure it's okay. You just take it. He says that there are two levels of the masculine. One which is considered the normal masculine. That who loves, who feasts, who fights, who hunts. He is the predatory man. We are predatory animals. Then there is the abnormal man, which is kind of like the modern man. He toils for a master, which is a job. He works for someone else in order to accumulate wealth for somebody else, aka a slave. He thinks, or thinks too much. He doesn't actually go into his body, realizes he has a set of balls, realizes that he's a man, realizes that he's on this earth for such a finite amount of time, and he ends up becoming an intellectual and losing himself in thought rather than taking action, and ultimately he half starves. Rather than becoming the ultimate man that he can be, he ends up being half a man. He says that number one, the normal man, is the perfect animal, and number two, the abnormal man, is the perfect monster. If you were to look back at how religion has changed over the years, the new style of religion is more towards submission. It's more towards piety. It's more towards seeing something that's weak and believing that it's strong, rather than looking at the old gods, how the Greeks, how the Vikings, how the Goths, how the Romans. I mean, these people had extreme gods like Odin and Zeus and Thor. I mean, these are very masculine men, warriors, with fertile women, and glorious stories about how men conquered and began to accumulate massive amounts of prosperity for themselves. But today, we have all these religions scouring the earth where not only are we dumbing down our own senses, but at the exact same time, we're not necessarily seeing these stories anymore. This masculine virtue, this taking what you want, this willingness to take risks. Instead, it's about becoming reclusive. It's about submitting to something else rather than yourself. And it's ultimately about taking control of who you are. They just want to tame you. They want you tamed. They can't have a world with a bunch of strong men and strong women running around with their primal instincts in 100% full force. It would be a glorious world to see, don't get me wrong. But the reality is that a majority of these new religions just want you to be extremely passive, because a passive civilization is one that is not willing to rise up when they see that tyrants have taken over. He also goes into sexual dynamics and talks about how women instinctively admire soldiers, athletes, kings, nobles, and fighting men, whether it be from strength, energy of character, ferocity, and courage. It is these types of things that women in particular look to when they're looking for a man. Because if a man is not strong, if a man can't protect himself, then how the fuck is he supposed to protect her? A symbol of strength is a man with a sword or a man with a gun. This hasn't changed, this will never change. Because the reality is when shit goes down and laws break down and ultimate anarchy begins to take over, the reality is that the men that have the power, the men that have the might, the men that are willing to take bold decisions in life are going to rise. It's not going to be the weak, it's not going to be the feeble, it's not going to be the anti-gun, it's not going to be any of those people. It's going to be the strong, decisive men who take up arms and decide to fight. If I was to wrap up this book in a single message, it would be this. And this is a Spencerian dictum. The sole truth that transcends experience and underlying it is the persistence of force. Might is right. Might is ultimately right. If you want to change your life, if you want to change who you're hanging out with, the job you're going to, the way your life's going right now, maybe you're not in the greatest of shape. If you want to change these things, you have to be penetrating into the world. That's what it's about. It's basically about fucking the world. That's your job. Because nothing is going to change. The base level of homeostasis around you will continue to stay the same until you take action to try to fuck up that algorithm that is constantly being fed to you. And the only way to do that is to fuck with it, to penetrate it, to go in and demand change, to take it for yourself. Not ask, state. Take what you want. If there's a job that you want, you take it. If there's a certain body that you want, you take it. If there's a particular set of girls that you want, you take it. Or guys, a particular set of guys you want, you take it. You don't ask questions, you take consistent action, and over time, as you're putting more power, it's like a fucking waterfall. Let's say at the bottom of the waterfall there's a rock, and that rock is your life, and you want to break into it because you see all this glory within. That waterfall starts pouring water onto that piece of rock. And it might take fucking years of consistent pressure. But eventually over time, that rock begins to dissipate. And then eventually, it cracks. It's that consistent pressure that changes your world around you. And the only way to do that is to fuck with it. To go in, continue to penetrate, and continue to put essential power that will ultimately change your life. To be honest, I really just scratched the surface with this book. This book goes way deeper, and I kept this pretty PG-13 for the most part. So if you want a real deal look about what this book's all about, I highly recommend it. I give it 5 stars. There's some things in here, obviously, I don't agree with everything in this book, but just like anything else, if you take the Jeet Kune Do approach, like Bruce Lee says, and you take what you need and you discard what you don't, then you'll take a lot of value out of this book, because it will make you realize that even though everything's changing all around us, ultimately might is right. Putting pressure continuously into a particular subset, a particular path, a particular mastery, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, will help you and ultimately will help you succeed. Because the strong thrive and the weak die. And that's just the truth about life. So if you enjoyed the review, please make sure to subscribe, like, and or comment. Once again, the book is Might is Right by Ragnar Redbeard. Once again, this is Jeff from JechtSpencer.com. Good fortune, you, my friend. Maybe I'll do... I don't really have anywhere to go.